FanDuel TV's Kentucky Derby week coverage is presented by Spendthrift Farm.
Welcome to Churchill Downs here as Breakfast at the Derby returns. And Renegade outstretching his legs in Florida. We'll take a look at his most recent work. And we go from the Arkansas Derby winner to the Bluegrass winner. Further ado, with a freakish performance in the Bluegrass, was back on track for trainer Brad Cox. And his stablemate, Commandment, the leading point getter on the Derby Trail, will also take a look at his most recent exercise. And the Lord said unto Moses, I leave with you my greatest commandment. Thou shalt not sleep through breakfast at the Derby. Well, we're back. Hello, everyone. Mike Joyce, Simon Bray, Joe Talamo, day one of Breakfast at the Derby, as we are here sunrise at Churchill Downs, the Twin Spires in the background, the tractors renovating the track, and a lot of Derby contenders have already put in their final preps for the Run for the Roses.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit busy weekend last weekend. There's some forecast of rain in the forecast here today, maybe into tomorrow. Some trainers trying to finalize their final plans. We'll see some works maybe later on this morning, and definitely some maybe Sunday and tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully not that bad, but it's going to be gorgeous this morning, so looking forward to that.
We've got a very interesting Kentucky Derby. It's certainly a different race each and every year. Last year, we had loads of talent on the top end, and I feel like we've got three horses that have separated themselves. Those are the horses that we just mentioned. The Arkansas Derby winner, the Bluegrass Derby winner, and the Florida Derby winner. Commandment, the leading point getter, the only horse to sweep a series of preps in one location as he went through Florida, and they couldn't get him.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And, you know, with the back-end weighted preps, obviously those major races, those horses are going to jump to the top of the list. But, yeah, there's not much between them. That's why morning line, you're talking about 4-1 is the morning line favorite right now. Probably Renegade coming off that win in the Arkansas Derby.
There's a look at it. Now, we've got Intrepido sitting on the outside waiting to get in. He's likely to run now with the scratch of the Michael McCarthy runner who won the Jeff Ruby. They're going to offer the American Turf there. So now, first one out is litmus test for Bob Baffert, we saw work very quickly yesterday.
Very quickly. Surprising. Worked 5/8 out of the gate yesterday with Martin Garcia aboard. I wonder if the, going to the lead is on their mind if they get in.
I would have to think so. He'll be up there.
And nobody's hoping for a defection, but you have to be ready in case there is one. Now, let's take a look. We can't do it ourselves, although we talk enough to. Let's take a look at the crew we have assembled. Of course, we're going to be here. We've got Scott Hazelton out at Lexington. We've got Joaquin Jaime on the backstretch, and Andy Biancone as well, as we start with Joaquin, who's standing at the Brad Cox barn.
Yeah, guys, good morning to you. So when you look at the qualifying system leading into the Kentucky Derby, this is a series that started from September and went to April. And then when you look at the top 5 qualifiers for the Kentucky Derby, 3 of the 5 are from this barn right here for trainer Brad Cox. You have Commandment, who won the Florida Derby, Full Effort, who won the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and Further Ado, who won the Bluegrass. Now, all 3 of these horses, they have already hit the track. Commandment, he went out first about 6:10, spoke to Brad Cox early this morning. He said that Commandment roughly jogged a mile, then galloped a mile and an eighth. Further Ado, he did the same thing. Ballpark, and Brad said jog a mile, then he would gallop a mile and an eighth. But Full Effort, who won the Jeff Ruby Stakes in his most recent start, he jogged a full 2 miles earlier this morning as well here at Churchill Downs. Now, as far as these 3 colts, when will they have their final breeze for the Kentucky Derby? Brad Cox told me he's still leaning towards Saturday or Sunday. That is all depending on the weather, but most likely the weather forecast starting to clear up a little bit here, so he's probably leaning towards Saturday for the final breezes for the Kentucky Derby starters for trainer Brad Cox. So Andy Biancone, at least as far as this morning, the work is done for the 3 runners for Brad Cox going into the first Saturday in May.
Joaquin, certainly a star-studded shed row down at the Brad Cox barn, but also a star-studded shed row outside of Riley Mott's barn. We will expect to see Incredibolt and Albus work tomorrow. Obviously, we are expecting a little bit of rain tonight, as you mentioned, Joaquin, but honestly, it's just going to be a little bit of rain, so Riley Mott has no problem with that. His two horses are going to train during the Derby training hours. They're going to back up, stand a little bit, go walk through the paddock today and have a nice, easy gallop, but we should expect to see them work tomorrow and have separate works from each other. They will not be working together. So lots of exciting stuff. Really fun thing when they call the announcement to let the Derby horses onto the track, they say all Derby, Oaks contenders, and former Kentucky Derby winners allowed to train. Yes, because the 2025 Derby winner Sovereignty is here in the Bill Mott barn, and he's been training every day. So he's been looking like a beast, but it's been so fun to see him out there with the other Derby contenders with his saddle towel on, and he just looks so much fun, Scott.
Well, we've got one Derby contender out here at Keeneland Racecourse. That is Golden Tempo for Cherie DeVoe, St. Elias Stables, Phipps Stables as well. This is a horse that we saw rise very quickly in the Derby ranks, broke his maiden, then won the Grade 3 Lecomte, ran through the series in Louisiana, and all of his works here since that Louisiana Derby have happened here at Keeneland Racecourse. So a final tune-up for Golden Tempo, and also, Michael, will be checking in with Ben Colebrook to recap the workout on Percy's Bar, which occurred yesterday out here in Lexington.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Joaquin. So we have a lot to look forward to today. Just give the people at home, at this stage of the game, most of the hard work is done. We're going to be seeing some maintenance drills, but we're going to go back to that second to last drill for the horses where we can.
That's the big work, the second to last work from the Kentucky Derby. That's where you do most of your work. The final work is just like a run-through. I mean, it's like an NFL play, you know, morning of the game, just doing a run-through. They do it a week out, and then it's a lot of, Baffert uses this term, wrap and bubble wrap, because that's what you got to do. You've got, as a job as a trainer, you've got to prevent things from going wrong, and anything can go wrong at any time with a racehorse.
Yeah, I feel like the last week, the most important thing is to not do too much.
Yes.
You know, to your point, that second to last work, you can maybe go a little quick, really good gallop out, and then come back on that last work and just kind of like maintenance. And to your point with bubble wrap, just kind of nice and easy. I don't think you're going to gain any more fitness the last work of the Derby. I feel like you could do too much.
Yeah, you're not gonna win or lose the Derby by, you know, going too slow in your final work. By going too fast, you will.
You can.
You can. And there'll be some gate schooling, and there'll be a lot of trips through the paddock, morning and afternoon. That's the type of thing that takes place the last week.
I mean, you got to think about those trainers that are in their first Derby. With one horse, that's a lot. With two, that's even more. And standing by with Riley Mott is our very own Andy Biancone.
Mike, yes, the Riley Mott contenders just getting a little bit of a warm-up before they head out to the track. Riders are both aboard Albus and Incredibolt, and they're just doing a couple rounds in the barn. The riders are getting tied on. You can see Albus's exercise rider adjusting his girth here. You know, it's really nice just to do a few rounds in the shed row so that you can get tied on. The exercise rider can make their knot, tighten their girth, fix their stirrups as needed. Here's Charlotte O'Connell aboard Incredibolt. So he's feeling a little frisky. You saw the little head shake there, but really typical of trainers to do this. It's also nice just for the horses to get a little bit of a warm up. And when they announce the opening of the track, everybody will head out, but it's been a kind of a nice team effort here. Sophia Thompson, she's the assistant trainer here for Riley Mott. She used to work for Bill with Riley. She's aboard the pony to the left over here, and she is just waiting for the cue as the boys get ready to make their way to the track. But she will be leading the contingent out, and they'll probably go in the chute, make a left, back up a little bit, stand, and then they will enter the paddock and do a couple rounds in the paddock today. And, you know, a lot of trainers opt to school horses in the afternoon, but it's also great to let horses school in the morning under riders, under tack, and just do a couple of rounds, let them relax, take a couple deep breaths in the paddock, and then they will come out and have a regular gallop as usual.
Thank you, Andy. Here's a look at 6 Speed. And here's 6 Speed coming onto the track. This is right by the gap there, and you can see being walked on. And just getting a feel for the environs.
Yeah, he's coming in from Meydan. Of course, you know, he was second in the UAE Derby. He's trained by Bhupat Sima, who you know, for a long time. He actually worked out here in Southern California. He was assistant to trainer Bob Baffert for a while.
Oh, wow.
Well, you know, second assistant with Jimmy Barnes. So he learned out here, and then he went back to Dubai. Satish Simar, I think it was his uncle, right, was the trainer there, record for a long time. He was the first registered trainer in Dubai, Satish. And now Bhupat is the trainer. So looking to come back here to the United States with 6-speed, who's got a good record, 3 for 5.
Good-looking horse, too.
Yeah.
So the UAE Derby for years has given us some flashy horses, but they've yet to win a Kentucky Derby. And some think that running a prep race a hemisphere away could be the problem, the travel, etc. How do you feel about that?
I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, we've seen with the Japanese horses, they can come here and run well in the Kentucky Derby. I don't think, you know, we haven't seen a lot of horses come from Dubai. I mean, yeah, we've seen some, but I wouldn't say a massive number. But I think at some point it will happen where they're going to run good. We'll see.
Yeah, and to your point, Simon, I mean, look at Forever Young. I mean, he was a head away from winning a Kentucky Derby, and then look what he did as an older horse.
Well, there's a look at 6-speed. Is the tractors right now are renovating the surface, so he's just waiting for them to open up the track. We got another 5 minutes or so until Kentucky Derby contenders can make their way onto the track. We'll give you a shot of that. And a lot of trainers like that fresh track. They reserve the time for just Derby and Oaks horses this time of day, Joe. How much of a difference does that make when you're prepping these horses? Is a fresh track a big deal, or is it just more let's just get out there when we can?
No, it is a big deal. I mean, and Simon can attest to this too, Train. When horses go over at one time, it gets looser. It's almost like running in the sand at the beach where it's not, you know, raked, or where the waves didn't come through. And you could see right there with the tractors harrowing it. That's from all the horses going over it. That you get a fresh track. So once one or two sets go over it, it could get a little bit on the deeper side. So you definitely want to go as soon as possible.
You can feel the excitement building. 8 days, 11 hours, and 42 minutes until the Kentucky Derby. You can see the excitement too, Simon.
Yeah, you certainly can. You can see. I mean, it's the vibe here at Churchill Downs starting this weekend. Obviously, racing kicks off Saturday afternoon for the first time in a while. So the locals get to come out here and watch these horses work, free admission. You can really feel the energy start to increase as we head into the weekend.
Joe, I know you've ridden a lot of horses. Have you ever ridden in one of the tractors, though?
I have not.
Well,
I learned how to drive in a tractor.
That's one. Well, we knew that. That's one thing I got for you. Let's check in with Joaquin.
Yeah, Mike, things are starting to pick up right now. The track's just about to open here, and the horse you're going to see right behind me is going to be Emerging Market, who won the Louisiana Derby. Flavien Prat is going to be aboard for the Kentucky Derby. Flavien's going to be aboard for this morning workout right now. And then the filly right behind him is going to be Always a Runner. Jose Ortiz is going to be riding the Oaks. Jose Ortiz is going to be aboard for this morning drill as well. Both these horses are going to be stepping on the racetrack right now and working at 7:15. But here's a good look at the Chestnut Sun of Candy Ride. Lightly race, light on seasoning. The talent is there, obviously. He's a perfect 2 for 2, Mike, and won the Louisiana Derby. So here's the plan this morning for Emerging Market. I talked to Chad Brown earlier. He told me that he's going to work 4 furlongs in company, obviously with Flavien Prat aboard. They're going to break off at the half-mile pole, and they're going to finish at the wire for Emerging Market and his workmate. The workmate is a maiden by the name of Hedgebook in here, guys. So just that's a little bit of what we can anticipate for this final drill for Emerging Market going into the Kentucky Derby.
As easy as 1, 2, 3. Emerging Market making only his 3rd start in the Kentucky Derby. Only his 3rd career start. So how have horses done with 2 starts in the past? Well, it's been since Leonatus in 1883 since we've had a winner.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to underscore, you know, you need experience. I guess the most recent prime example of this would be Justify. He had 3 starts going into the Kentucky Derby, won it in his 4th start, but you are giving up so much in experience.
Andy Biancone, always happy, is walking along so happy.
Well, Mike, so happy, is certainly looking so happy as he prepares to put in his final 5/8 drill before the Kentucky Derby. Hall of Fame jockey Mike Smith is aboard. Seems to be wearing some meta glasses. Very interesting. But so happy, just going an easy 5/8. Like you guys said, this is just a maintenance work at this point, kind of like a rehearsal. But Mike Smith cheesing, giving So Happy a ton of pets, and he's just standing very kind here as we watch the tractors pass by. And like I said, Mike Smith's just going to do an easy little work with him, a nice 5/8, stretch his legs over the track, and really good to see Mike aboard. So happy. And honestly, I got chills the other day just reading about what Mike was thinking coming down to the wire in the Santa Anita Derby. Obviously, Mark Glatt's wife, Dina Glatt, of 25 years, passed away of sudden heart failure just before the Santa Anita Derby. And, you know, down the lane, Mike said, "Come on, Dina, let's do this together." And he, you know, certainly feels like there is a bit of an angel riding on So Happy as well. But just really special stuff. And I swear I just got chills reading that the other day. So just very cool to see So Happy in person and Mike Smith aboard him as well.
And Andy, we all were there at Santa Anita during that moment. And post-race for Mark Glatt, he's not a guy that has really shown a lot of emotion. The only emotion he's really shown is he gets a little gruff with us at times with the reporters, but one of the best horsemen in California, a tremendous trainer, and you saw some of that emotion coming out. I mean, it's an unthinkable difficulty that he has to deal with this, but sometimes the horses are the refuge, and So Happy just providing such a refuge for the entire Glatt family.
Yeah, I mean, the story around it is just be remarkable if this horse wins. And you know, ironically, this horse is kind of named after him. Dina loved the name of this horse because if you know Mark Glatt, I mean, he never smiles. I've teased him on camera. I've reported so many times, and he loved it. He'll win a Grade 1. And Mark Glatt would be on camera just with the stoic face. I'm like, you look so happy, Mark. And they named this horse So Happy after him.
And here's a look at that Santa Anita Derby. This was a fantastic effort. And also to think, Joe, there's questions about whether or not he could go a mile and an eighth because of that pedigree.
And I think the key to him this day was getting to settle him off the pace. I think in the San Felipe, he was kind of part of a hot pace that day, backed up to third, beating 2 1/4 lengths. So the fact that he was able to set off that pace in the Santa Anita Derby surely helped him.
I like the way he pulled away the last sort of 16th mile there. He was heads up with Potente, and then when Mike Smith asked him, he actually went on and ahead with it. I don't think Potente was slowing down.
No, I think that was a really good run. And for the Thoroughgraph players out there, a lot of people like So Happy because that sheet number going, the sheet pattern is really strong, the way he's progressed each and every start. Another lightly raced horse, only 4 starts under his belt, but he's gotten faster each time.
Yep.
So he's certainly a contender. And I think you said that Chief Wallaby is going to be the wise guy horse. I think So Happy might be the opposite of that. He might be the horse that goes off at a price because people just aren't thinking, hey, he's going to be able to do it. And I think he's got every bit of a right to win this Derby as anybody else. Let's go to Andy.
Well, Mike, we're standing right outside Bill Mott's barn. We're waiting for Sovereignty and Chief Wallaby to come out, but Bill will take Sovereignty, and Chief Wallaby will go with Bill's assistant, Kenny. But they're just making their final rounds of the barn, similar to what we saw in the Riley Mott barn, just making a few rounds in the barn, letting the horses take a deep breath, letting them warm up a little bit, and giving the riders a moment to just get tied on and adjust their equipment, tie their knots before they head out to the track. Some trainers prefer to stand right by the gap, but I do think it's nice that these horses can just get a couple rounds to walk and warm up before they head out. But we will come back shortly as soon as we see Sovereignty and Chief Wallaby head out.
Simon, I think your old boss still has it, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm getting flashbacks there, a little bit PTSD, actually. That's 26 years ago.
Simon, of course, used to work for Bill Mott before going out on his own, becoming a Grade 1 winning trainer in his own right, but learning from the best, Sir Henry Cecil and Bill Mott. And Bill Mott, of course, won the Derby last year with Sovereignty. He's back this year with Chief Wallaby. But interestingly enough, taking on his son, Riley Mott, who has 2 charges in this year's Kentucky Derby.
I mean, remarkable to have two horses for the same owner as well. And that's a whole nother story as well. That would be remarkable if Riley Mott could pull off that with Albus and Incredible.
As you can see, the horse is coming out onto the racetrack now. There's a look at Emerging Market. This horse might be the most talented of this year's Derby crop. We don't really know yet, but the small sampling we've seen, Joe, he has been sensational.
Yeah, I mean, he's only run 2 times, and he's 2 for 2. But I think the only thing is just he only has those 2 starts.
It's a tall task, and it's not something. Obviously, we showed the graphic that's been done very often, only once before. But look at this run in the Louisiana Derby. Mile and 3/16, the longest prep race in North America. He seems to be getting every inch of that ground.
And I think that's what helped him too, that he won first time out, but he ran 2 turns going a mile and 40 at Tampa Bay. And then when he came back in New Orleans, that mile and 3/16, most of the prep races, the last prep anyway, is a mile and an 8. So this is an extra 16th. And I think that could help him fitness-wise, because he's going to need every bit of that fitness for the lack of experience that he has.
I mean, he was beaten. He got headed inside the 16th pole, and then he's another horse that came back, showed fight late.
Andy?
Well, you guys heard the call to open the tracks. Oaks Derby and prior Derby winners allowed to train at this time. And you see Sovereignty under his usual exercise rider, Jimmy Kisspray, who does a phenomenal job with this horse. Sovereignty does not look like an easy horse to gallop. Obviously, he's very classy, but he's got a huge stride. He's very powerful. And sometimes the way he carries his head, he doesn't necessarily put his head down and bow it nice and easy. He honestly kind of has a high head carriage. That can make it extremely difficult for an exercise rider, because you can't necessarily take a long hold with your reins and get them under you. Sometimes when a horse has a high head carriage, it puts you in a situation to get in a fight with them more often than not. And Jimmy just does a fantastic job keeping Sovereignty relaxed and happy, and not changing the way he goes, but just going with him. He's really fun to watch Jimmy ride Sovereignty. They really get along so well. So you'll see him on the track galloping in a little bit. He's backing up with Bill Mott right now, and he'll just go for an easy gallop.
I mean, flashbacks to yesteryear when Sovereignty stole the show on the breakfast shows. It was all Sovereignty and journalism last year, and it paid off because they ran 1-2 in the Derby.
Yeah, I mean, they tipped their hand all week last year, and hopefully we'll, starting here today on day one, the next 7-8 days, we'll get another couple of horses to do the same thing. Here's Emerging Market going with a stablemate. He's, like we said, he's lightly raced, but, Chet Brown's had success bringing lightly raced horses in the Kentucky Derby. He hasn't won, but, they've been right there and run well. So we'll see what he does here.
This horse's last work, too, was 48-2 at Payson Park. It's pretty deep down there in South Florida. You actually don't see many horses break 49, so that's a pretty good work that won back on April 18.
Yeah, Payson Park's extremely deep. This horse has had 3 works since the Louisiana Derby at Payson Park, all of them at a half mile. You can pretty much, whatever work they do at a regular racetrack, Mike, you can back it up 1/8 of a mile down at Payson Park because it's so deep.
Really?
Yeah.
And we're going to take a look at that April 18th work at Payson Park. We got that. Is he going to work today?
He's going to work right now.
Oh. Well, let's take a look at this one first, and then we'll bring you the live work in just a moment. This is from April 18th. As we take a look at Emerging Market, you can see the chestnut on the inside.
Yeah, and he's doing it pretty well within himself, too, inside. I think the work prior to that, he worked outside, so a lot of times you want to switch him up, but this is really good. It doesn't even look like he's exerting that much energy.
No, very fluid, got a good way of going. I mean, he's in company, very manageable with the rider. He's not too aggressive. He's doing everything he's asked, and there you see the time, 48.40, 48-2. And just perfect workout here. And like we said, Payson's much deeper. I don't think you'll ever see a 6 furlong workout at Payson.
It's a nice moving animal, though. It's a shame he only has the 2 prep races. If he had a little more foundation, you'd be a little more confident if you're sending him in there. But Chad Brown is as good a trainer as any in the game. And I'm sure he would have liked to have another prep under his belt. But do you think he's got the ability to get this horse tight enough? Or could the trainer even do that? Is it really more up to the horse?
I think it's a combination of both. I don't think fitness is going to be an issue. He's had a lot of work down there at Payson Park. I think that that's a great track to get a foundation in a horse. Everything's gone right. He arrived here on Monday. So I don't have any problem with the fitness. It's just the experience. But one thing I will say about him, he's got a perfect running style. He's not coming from downtown, and he's not on the lead. He gets that tracking trip about 2 lengths off the lead.
Yeah, and even going a mile and a 3/16 in New Orleans, they went 46-1. I mean, that's pretty quick for that distance, and he was only 3.5 lengths off that pace.
Now, here he is right now, Joe. Tell us, what's the exercise rider doing? He looks like he's really trying to restrain this one.
Yeah, just trying not to go too quick. Again, this is his last work. I think that last work, that 48-2, it was kind of the the one where they wanted to get a lot out of it. So this, they just want to try and go nice and easy. Another maybe 48 and change, 49 flat.
So what's the thinking then if you want them to go nice and easy, but you work them in company? Because I always thought if you put them in company, they're going to try harder.
They are, but the type of horse, you can go around there on the bridle, especially this week you see he's on the outside.
Yeah.
It'll be a little easier for him to sit maybe half a length and just draw up. Sometimes when horses work together on the bridle, yeah, I mean, an aggressive horse you don't want to put in company, they'll run off. But if you know your horse, you want them on the bridle. You want the reins tight so that, you know, they don't misstep or they don't flounder. Keep them collected together. You just want them to go, you know, like that. A final half-mile workout before a race where they go in company and just let him stretch his legs on out.
Visually, we don't have the time yet. What would you grade that work?
I'd give it an A. I mean, there's absolutely nothing you can say against it.
And look at his ears, too, flipping up. That you could tell he's not under any distress at all, just absolutely cruising. That's exactly what you want to see in a last workout.
He is a gorgeous animal. He moves very well, too. And I'm not even somebody who notices these things. Let's take a look at So Happy. He's going to work 5 furlongs. You can see here on the graphic where they break away. And this last 5 furlong drill before the Derby, once again, it's just maintenance, but what should we be looking for here?
Well, you see at the bottom of the screen there, if there was a real tightener, you go 58. Very slow is 104. I would say this horse here, he's working on his own probably a week before, maybe 101, 102, something like that.
Yeah.
And as far as how this horse moves, Joe, what do you notice as he just breaks away from the pony now?
I mean, yeah, he's just at about the 5.5 there, so you could see Mike moving his hands a little bit just to get him up into it. And one thing I've noticed about prior works is So Happy, he's not like a wow horse.
No.
That when he works, even his last work in 59 and 3, which is quick time-wise, he's not a real flashy horse. As you could see right here, he's just kind of going through the motions, but in a good way, though.
And do want to clarify, I know Mike Smith is getting a little long in the tooth, but those glasses are meta glasses. He doesn't need them to ride, just to read. As we take a look at So Happy going around the turn. Also for Mark Glatt, to have the Hall of Famer Mike Smith in the irons, he is the ageless wonder. I mean, and last year, unfortunately, you know, after the Derby, they were questioning him about it. He goes, "Hey, this isn't my last Derby.
Right.
I'm coming back." He's coming back, and he's coming back on this horse.
He's going to be 60 in August.
That's unbelievable.
Which is unreal.
See, he's having this is a horse, like to Joe's point, you know, visually you have to ask him to do it. Now, this is a horse probably if you put him in company, he'd do a little more, you know, but this, I wouldn't be upset with this. Looks good here coming down the lane. See what the final time is.
How much of a different work is it when you have the exercise rider in there or the actual race day jockey? Does it matter for the horse or does it matter more for the jock?
I think it's always better to put whoever's going to ride him in the afternoon, just because you could tell week to week, like, oh man, in a good or bad way, he didn't feel the same as he did the week prior.
Yeah, the progression. But here he is on the gallop out, Joe. We need the ear analysis.
That perfect, straight up. That means he's happy. He's so happy.
It's all about the ears.
It's all about the listeners.
The ears, baby. Remember Empire Maker's ears? Oh, best ears in the game. Here's Wonder Dean. Getting a chance to see those Japanese horses for the first time on U.S. soil. See him there in the bright yellow saddle towel. That's how we identify all the Kentucky Derby runners. And just out here for a gallop.
Yeah, this is his, I think, 3rd or 4th day galloping out here. He arrived from Japan first of the month, so he's been here quite a while. I was in quarantine. Then he walked for quite a bit. Not a huge horse. You know, and the Japanese runners now, we've got to see them the last several years here. They spend a lot of time outside of the stall. They'll walk, you know, a good 45 minutes, 50 minutes before they go onto the track. Then they'll do their exercise, and they'll come back and they'll walk again. They're out of the stall for over 2 hours in the morning usually.
And they train so much more differently work-wise compared to the U.S.
Yes, this isn't the Miho Training Center.
No.
This is Churchill Downs. So how different is it for these horses to be here and training in a situation like this? Is it virtually similar, or are there a lot of differences they got to take in?
Yeah, they don't usually train on an oval at the training centers in Japan. Having visited there, a lot of straight gallops, but obviously there's a little workout here, and he's moving over the ground extremely well. And you can see here with that pedigree, he's by D Majesty, a Japanese horse, but by Deep Impact, so stretching out kind of nicely. They're not a huge horse.
No, he's scooting along there pretty good, though.
Just galloping by us here, too. You can hear him. So there's a look at Wonder Dean. Let's take a look at the UAE Derby. Wonder Dean, of course, gets in with 106 points. Here's that UAE Derby. Christian DeMuro was aboard that day. Take us through this stretch drive. And look, the UAE Derby, mile and a quarter, much the same like the Kentucky Derby. The only prep race that goes the actual 10 furlongs.
Yeah, well, the one thing about these Japanese horses, the dirt tracks in Japan, we talked about how deep Payson Park is. They're like that. They're extremely deep. They're very beachy. They don't put a lot of water on the racetrack, so it's a very demanding surface. And you can see the further he goes, he just kind of grinds it out here. They're not flying home, but it's a battle of stamina, and he wins it.
And I think that's such an advantage there and a place like Payson Park on a deeper track. When they come to a quicker track like Churchill Downs, they skip right over.
Yep.
Here's a look at Albus off a maiden victory into the Wood Memorial and scores to give Riley Mott his second Derby starter in 2026 out on the racetrack here. And look, 100 points cold. Him and Emerging Market, both of which just had a maiden score. He had a number of races prior to the maiden, so a little more foundation there.
Yeah, he did, but it's remarkable to go from a maiden into the win in the Wood Memorial. The problem I have, not with the horse or any of that, I just don't know how strong the Wood Memorial was.
Yeah, I totally. Look, sheer numbers wise, he won by a length and a quarter, but he ran only a 83 buyer. I would say to be competitive in the Kentucky Derby, you need a mid to high 90, low to mid 100.
He hasn't broken 90 in any of his starts.
So you might be up against it, but these are all developing 3-year-olds. You don't know who's making those big leaps forward until they get in the starting gate. Let's take a look at the Puma. With new ownership, the Ivarones are coming to Louisville. Michael Ivarone and his wife Jules have bought into the Puma. That deal was announced yesterday, and he is as talented. Look, the racing in Florida, this Derby trail was second to none between Commandment, the Puma, Chief Wallaby, all taking shots at each other. Don't forget, Puma ran into Renegade as well in the Sam F. Davis.
He started 4 times. He got beat by Chief Wallaby in his debut. He got beat by Renegade in the Sam F. Davis. He won the Tampa Bay, and then he was beaten by Commandment. The 3 horses that beat him, 2 of them are probably the top 2 betting choices, top 3 betting choices. The other one is the Wise Guy horse.
He broke his maiden in the Tampa Bay Derby, and look who he beat. Further Ado.
Yeah, that's crazy. As Further Ado is probably going to be first, second, or third choice. Commandment will be first, second, or third choice, and Renegade probably first, second, or third choice.
Yeah, those are the top 3.
There is a look at the Puma on the track. Let's go to Joaquin.
And Mike, thank you very much. Here with Dan Ward, who's overseeing things for Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. We'll get to the Derby horses here in just a second, Dan, but let's start there. How did this whole thing come about with you teaming up with Bob?
He called me one day and told me he was looking for somebody to work in Kentucky and handle his stable, and he told me he wanted me to keep all my help. And that made it a very good offer for me. So we got together. I just got here Tuesday, and I'm following Jimmy around now to see how they do things and everything, and just trying to learn the way they do things.
When you're learning their program and their routine, what sort of adjustments are factored into that for you personally?
It's good to be working with nice horses again, nice sound horses, and it's first-class operation. Everything they do is first class. And I've had litmus test over there at Oaklawn, so I know him, but Patente just came in yesterday.
We'll start with litmus test. He had a workout on Thursday. What did he do during that workout, and how did he cool out?
It was a fantastic workout. Bob wanted him to go from the gate, so I put one of my horses in there with him, and he worked spectacular, and he came back great. It was Martin worked him. Martin Garcia really liked the way he worked. He really worked like he likes this track.
And then Patente, much lightly raced compared to his stablemate who's on the outside looking in. Speaking of litmus test, comes off a second-place finish in the Santa Anita Derby. When did he get into town?
Yesterday, 4:30 in the afternoon. So he just jogged just now. Okay. And then he'll gallop, and that's all we know so far.
Is that the first time that you had a chance to actually set your eyes on Patente?
Yes.
What do you think?
He looks great. It was a really impressive race last time he ended up on the lead. I don't think that's where they wanted to be the first part of the race, but he looks great. All his horses look great.
Has Bob told you when he's thinking for a final drill for Patente just yet?
No, we don't know.
We'll figure that out in the next couple days. Dan, appreciate it. Have a good morning here at Churchill.
Thank you very much.
So the sirens are going off right now because there is an injured horse on the racetrack. So while they deal with that, everything hits pause, lets everyone know to stay away and make their way off the track for the time being. We're going to take a break. Hopefully this situation resolves before we come back. We'll update you on the other side when we return to breakfast at the Derby.
Well, Mark, Casse has made it into town, and Silent Tactic put in his final work yesterday. Tell us a little bit about the work and your impressions of it overall.
You know, I thought he worked good. He kind of just goes around there. If we'd wanted him to go real fast, we would give him some company. But I thought it was a good work. He got over the surface really well. And more importantly, after the breeze, acted like he hadn't done anything. So that tells me also that he's not struggling with the racetrack. So all systems are go. Now the countdown begins.
What will his week look like during this countdown period?
Light jogging, some galloping, not a lot of anything.
And earlier on the road to the Arkansas Derby, you had mentioned to me that he was kind of an immature horse mentally. How has he matured and taken steps forward from early on in the Arkansas Derby Trail to now on the Kentucky Derby Trail?
Well, I think if you look, except for the Arkansas Derby, he had moved forward each race. I thought maybe he hit kind of a lull there in the Arkansas Derby, but we're hoping, here he's getting, I think, 5 weeks or 4 weeks between races. He's ready. He looks great, and he's held his weight good. So now we just need some luck and some pace.
I also see that Christian Torres is going to stick aboard, and just reflect on that a little bit for me. I know Christian was an exercise rider for you early on before we even started riding races. So how full circle is it to just see him begin there and to now be riding a Derby contender for you?
Well, he's done amazing. He's a great rider, great attitude. And, last year late we took him off of Sandman, and I felt bad about that. But I said, there'll be derbies for you, Christian, and we didn't know it would be this quick. But I think he knows him well. He's going to ride him with a lot of confidence, and I think that's important because he is a little quirky to ride. I think you got to wait. We have that. He is a little quirky to ride. I also think he's probably only got about 5/16 of a mile or a quarter of a mile running him. His last 2 races, he's made the lead at the 8th pole. We're going to try not to do that. We're going to sit back, and like I said, if they give us some pace, Christian's going to sit on him and make a big run, probably in the maybe about the 5/16 pole.
Silent Tactic, certainly a horse with that powerful closing kick, and really glad to know that Christian Torres knows him so well, and it's very fun to see him aboard him for the Derby. Mark, thank you so much, and best of luck this week.
Thank you, and luckily we didn't get ran over.
Survival here.
Yeah, Andy, you and your camera guy can go ahead and put in for hazard pay. There's Silent Tactic on April the 23rd. This was yesterday, right around sunrise. It's a very, very accomplished horse for this stage of the game. Ran, danced every dance in Arkansas, hit the board every time, got a win under his belt. Very talented.
Very sound horse. He's been on the go since January, and you heard what Mark Casse said there. He'll do what you want him to do, and he kind of practiced like he plays. He doesn't show any speed in the afternoon. He kind of just sits back there, comes with a run. And I think that's the key. Key is getting a trip and presenting him at the right time. Mark said he's only got about a quarter-mile run. You don't want to hit the front too soon.
Yeah, and he makes a good point, too. When he won the Southwest, he came from virtually last in there. And then in the Rebel and Arkansas Derby, I mean, he ran in the Class President and Renegade. Unfortunately, Class President not going to run in the Derby, but two really accomplished horses. But, I mean, he's never been worse than second in 6 career starts.
No, he's good. Look, I know Renegade ran by him like he was tied to a post. He was dealing with a foot bruise. Mark Casse said that he's doing better now than he was going into the Arkansas Derby. Foot bruise is pretty common. Horses deal with that at times, but he'd had it, 4 weeks prior and didn't really get him 100% tight. But I also think by design, you don't want your horse 100% tight in that final prep. You want them to get in the Derby, but you don't want them spent going into the Derby.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think Mark's, changed, I wouldn't say changed his training routine, but he's adjusted maybe over the last several years. He's not as hard on his horses in the morning, runs them a lot, big gaps between works, a lot of jogging, a lot of light galloping.
And that was a perfect work, too. I mean, visually 48 flat. He was not X at all.
And we saw it last year, and we heard it again this year. He's a horseman that we've heard him go with his gut. And those gut instincts, they get better as you get older because he has spent a lifetime in the game of thoroughbred racing.
Training horses, it's like flying a plane. As long as everything's going fine, you're good. But when you hit trouble, it's nice to have the pilot that's been doing it for 35 years, and that's me.
Where's the Queen's Plate?
Hetland has won the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Mark Casse's 4,000th win.
Sandman does it.
I don't think there was ever a time that I didn't want to be in the horse business. I went to the Hall of Fame with my dad when I was like 12 years old. I said to him, someday I'll be in here. And he said, as any good father would, oh yes, you will. My father was chairman of the Oberkaler Breeder Sales for over 25 years. But what I learned from my father is there are no shortcuts. Recently, somebody said to me, you're doing so well. And I was like, yes, I'm a 40-year overnight sensation. I was leading trainer in Kentucky in the 80s. Kind of got a little burnt out on it all. And then I ended up going to Toronto, to Woodbine. And we grew and grew and grew. And then when my son Norman came aboard on our team, he said, Dad, we have to start running more in the U.S. And the rest is history.
But nothing stood in his way. Warren Will won the Preakness. They're coming to the finish, and Sir Winston has won the Belmont Stakes.
If you don't have the horses, I don't care how great a trainer you are, you're nothing. We've won many big races, had many great accomplishments. Definitely the highlight of all highlights is being put in the Hall of Fame, because that means that you've been good for a long time. I achieved the one in Canada earlier than the one in the U.S. I only think there's a handful of trainers that have done that. My goals are always to be better than I was the year before. I can tell you early on, my goal was to win 20 races a year. Last year, we won almost 250 races, so things have changed. I probably watch more horses train in one day than most trainers watch train in 2 weeks. I love waking up in the morning and knowing that we have these horses to run. We've had 25 millionaires. To win $1 million, you have to be good over a period of time and a period of years. My most memorable win would be Tepin at Royal Ascot. We got to meet the Queen. But you talk to the average person, they ask, have you ever won the Kentucky Derby? They don't realize how hard it is to do it, but I haven't done that yet. We won a Preakness and a Belmont. I'm not getting any younger. I don't know how many more chances that I'm going to have at it. So it's exciting to have horses that have a possibility to accomplish that dream. Let's get it done.
As good of a horseman as there is in the world right now, and his accomplishments both in the U.S. and Canada. I mean, in Canada, he's a dominant force.
Yeah.
His years at Woodbine, it was just ridiculous. The amount of races he won, their biggest races, multiple surfaces, and he's a trainer you can't pigeonhole. You can't say he's a turf trainer, he's a polytrack trainer, he's a sprint trainer. He can train anything on any surface at any distance.
And at any level. Claimers as well. I mean, the job he did with nitrogen last year, grass, turf, both surfaces. But this is probably the one that he wants more than anything. It's 11 starters in the Derby. He hasn't hit the board. So that's the one that's probably eating at him right now to try and get.
Yeah, it is so tough. And one thing I took away from that, he said there's no shortcuts in horse racing. He always says he's a 40-year overnight sensation. And it's so true, whether you're a trainer or a jockey, there's truly no shortcuts. You just have to come to work every day, grind away, and hopefully you get horses like that.
No, it's compounding success begets success, but it is a hard road to get that success. Very hard road. At any rate, a man who's had more success in this game finding the winner's circle than anybody else, Mark Casse, we go to Cherie DeVoe with Golden Tempo. She's started her training career just a few years ago, but quite quickly has ascended to the highest levels of this sport. And here's a look at Golden Tempo at Keeneland earlier. This colt, he's only got a couple of wins under his belt. One of them was the LeCompte, third in both the Risen Star and the Louisiana Derby, as he was a fixture at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, this was earlier this morning. His last work was last Friday at Keeneland. He worked 47 flat. So you and I have seen this for the first time, Joe. Good-looking horse. I loved him in the LeCompte. He's run back with some good races. Just came up a little short last time out, as Mike mentioned in the Louisiana Derby. But he's a horse that, again, you know, I think he's improving. His numbers are getting a little better. I think he's got to take another leap forward to be very competitive, but he could get a piece of it.
Yeah, and the one good thing about him, too, he's ascended pretty quickly. I mean, he broke his maiden going 6 furlongs and came right back into Grade 3 LeCompte, going a mile in the 16th and won. Not an easy thing to do in career start number 2. He's improved his buyers in all 4 starts. If you notice, he's wearing blinkers. They put him on for the first time in the Louisiana Derby to try and put a little bit more speed in him. I wouldn't say it necessarily did that. He still came from behind, but nonetheless, he did move forward, at least numbers-wise.
Looks good here, but bear in mind he's working with the turf horse, Brilliant Birdie, 7-time winner, Grade 2 winner on the grass. I mean, he's got some good accomplishments, but he is a turf horse on the outside. But yeah, gets around there very, very smoothly.
And this, again, this is his last work. Last week on April 17th, he went 47 flat, which is cooking along pretty good. So I think that was his most important work. This one right here is what we've been saying all morning. You don't want to do too much, but get him to get just enough out of it.
Let's be realistic. Is he a legitimate contender, Simon? This horse he's been behind Emerging Market, Paladin, or Pavlovian. Is Golden Tempo good enough to take a big enough step forward to win?
I think he is. I mean, just on the Emerging Market form, if you like him, then I think you have to like this horse. He's just going to keep trucking. You know, Emerging Market, wherever he is, this horse probably going to be behind him a little bit, have to come and run him down. But he's you know, his numbers are getting better incrementally. He's improving at the right time. I could see him showing up underneath in the top 4 for sure.
Let's get out to Keeneland right now with Scott Hazelton.
Well, Golden Tempo putting in his prep here at Keeneland Racecourse for the Derby in just 8 days. First of all, what led to keeping him here at Keeneland versus shipping over to Churchill and putting in a final workout over there, Cherie?
We have great luck with our stable just prepping here and going over to Churchill. We were going to have to do a couple moves if we did that from Fairgrounds here and then to Churchill, because when we got back, we weren't set, you know, the track wasn't open when we shipped back. So, you know, just keep them on the same surface. And, you know, we've had great luck. You know, Vava won a Grade 1 doing the same as he did. So we'll just stick to form. And, you know, every horse is different. And I think every trainer needs to do what they're comfortable with.
What'd you catch him in?
I got 47 and 4.
Another half-a-mile workout. He was in company with Brilliant Birdie. Has he been working with that really talented runner of yours, Brilliant Birdie, all along?
Nope. He's had different company, and he's outworked each one. this was just a maintenance work, and Brilliant Birdie is a pretty good workhorse, and he's older, so it was a good company with him, just so that we didn't want him doing too much in the work and in the gallop out. So it was a really good company, and like I said, Brilliant Birdie, even though he's a turf horse, works pretty well on the dirt.
People like to focus their attention on the gallop out, especially for a race like the Derby at a mile and a quarter. How was the gallop out? How would you describe it?
It was very good. I asked them, we have radios, so just asked them to steadily gallop out. I got a minute, and then I got out in 13. So just a steady gallop out. Last week, we asked a lot more of him, where he had a really good gallop out, double gallop out with Jose aboard. Just a little bit more of a pressing work as opposed to the maintenance work that we saw this morning.
What have you seen from him in these 4 months of races, this very short amount of time that you've had him down at Fairgrounds and now in his works here at Keeneland Racecourse?
He has matured both physically and mentally a lot. By design, we stayed in Fairgrounds, let him have the 4 weeks in between races, and then we had 6 weeks here so that we could do a little bit more with him. Was always a heavier horse, and it took a while for him to really shape up physically, and we're there now. He has really improved in that respect.
What's different about preparing a horse for the Derby versus the other big races that you prepared horses for, grade ones across the country or Breeders' Cups?
I think any race, any time that we do this, I'm one of those people that's just hyper-focused and intense on any breeze. It's the same. I can't say how it's different or not. This is my first Derby experience, so I'm trying to do what has worked for me in the past and just take it day by day, week by week, make sure the horse is doing well, see what, evaluate him to see what he might need in his next work and how he comes out of each work. So, I think to stay outside of being in my own head, just really need to focus and just do what has worked and had our stable be successful to this point.
Not to take you away from the laser focus that you have, but as we go from Keeneland over to Churchill and the more media attention and all that goes with it, are you prepared for that shift in attention and all of the, I don't want to say chaos, but somewhat chaos that happens on the backstretch?
I was actually thinking this morning, my first foray from going from Saratoga, where I had went to college and lived, was to Churchill, and I was 22 years old. And this morning when I was driving in, I just tried to remind myself that when I was 22 years old, how much fun it looked and how I hoped one day to be part of it. And I had been at Churchill many years leading up to the Derby. So I'm really just trying to focus on the positives and just take it all in.
Let's have some fun, Cherie.
Thank you.
I think it's a good question Scott asked, because look, I was in that situation 25 years ago, first Derby, young, and it was eye-opening. I was a deer in headlights. I didn't know what, and the press attention now is 10x what it was then with social media. And I think experience here goes a long, long way. But she's a very level-headed trainer. She's been around some good horses, and this is what we're talking about, his effort, Golden Tempo in the Louisiana Derby. I mean, look, she's elected the 6 weeks, said he's a big, heavy horse. I think he's going to just get better and better and better. And he's had consistent workout. If you look at his workout pattern since this race, every 7 days, some good, solid works.
The one thing I didn't like about that, if you notice, he was about in the 5 or 6 path, and it looked like he was going to kind of go by and he'd drop down. So to me, it seems like he's still kind of maturing.
So we'll have more from Keeneland Racecourse with Scott Hazelton in a little bit. Right now, let's check in with Andy Biancone.
Well, So Happy seems to be cooling out perfectly after his final work on the track. He just worked an easy 5/8 under Hall of Fame jockey Mike Smith and seems to be cooling out perfect. You can see his breathing isn't labored at all. He honestly isn't even blowing a candle. He's hanging out with Mark Glatt's assistant trainer, Marissa Morales. She's holding him, playing with his nose, but this horse just seems to be very friendly. He knows his people, standing really nice for this bath. And I always like to say the horses know that they're stars. He's got cameras, a million people surrounding him, and he is soaking up every ounce of attention. But like I said, you can tell that was just a very easy work for him. He had his ears pricked the entire time, galloped across the track really nice, had a nice easy gallop out, came back, and he's not blowing a hair. So really, really good signs from So Happy, and he certainly looks so happy.
I see what you did there. He certainly looks so... Very good, very good. And we're going to have a lot of those puns leading up to it. But a legitimate contender. And I feel like we'll see what the wagering does. That horse is going to be a big price. I don't think the Santa Anita Derby winner, I just don't think the California horses are going to get the respect this year that we've gotten in years past. And people are going to overlook that horse because of the pedigree. Because I don't know if a lot of people on the East Coast and then the Midwest know who Mark Gladd is and just how good of a horseman he is. And I don't think that they're going to give respect to the crop of horses in California with what we saw in Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, etc.
I would agree. If you're handicapping regions, which is what we do, Florida, kind of New York, Kentucky, Arkansas, and then the West Coast, probably most people think the West Coast is the weaker of the two, of the five regions there. So I think you're right with that. And I think the Mark Gladd story, the more that gets out, that'll get some what I call housewives picks, you know, people that just bet the horses once a year at the Derby and they like a good story. That's who we're all rooting for, is Mark Gladd in that story.
I think one good thing about So Happy, too, Mike, you said it earlier, his Thoroughgraph sheet looks really good. He's improving, and his buyer. And one thing about that, I love when horses improve their numbers the further they go. You don't want to see them decreasing their buyer as that distance gets further, especially to go 1.25 miles.
Housewives picks.
It's a term we use in England.
Oh, okay.
Like at the Grand National, at the Derby.
No, okay. I don't know how people...
Is that, yeah, I was going to say, in this day and age, it's probably not PC, right?
Especially because you and I are 6 months away from being house husbands. At any rate, let's keep moving forward here on Breakfast at the Kentucky Derby. We saw So Happy, a major contender. Let's go back to Andy Biancone with more from the backstretch.
Well, Mark Gladd just oversaw So Happy's work. Tell us about your impressions overall. He worked an easy minute and one. He looked great moving over the track.
Yeah, he seemed to handle the track real well, and he's not a lot of workhorse by himself, especially by himself, and so I thought that was really nice. His gallop out was stronger than usual for him, and so overall I thought it was a good work.
For the people who aren't familiar with horses, could you just describe a little bit what it's like to have a horse who's not particularly a good workhorse?
Well, there's horses that get real aggressive. They don't relax, and they'll just work fast. And then there are some horses that just kind of go through the motions. I think he's kind of somewhere in between. A lot of times we'll give him some company, but I thought, going in a week into the race, we would lighten up on him a little bit and not give him a target today and see how he got around there.
Would you say he's a little bit more aggressive when he does have company?
Yeah, he is. He's more aggressive. He was real good on his workout at Santa Anita last week prior to coming out here. And, but still just kind of does what he has to do, even in company.
He seems like he just has a very cool disposition. Does he kind of change on race day, or does he carry this calm, cool attitude wherever he goes?
Well, he's calm and cool on race day, but he definitely turns it on once the gate opens in the afternoon. He's a totally different horse. He's all business and seems to know when it's crunch time.
Well, So Happy. I know he's named for you, Mark, but I would say he's aptly named because he certainly looks so happy in everything he does. But best of luck this weekend. We're so happy you made it out here.
Thank you very much.
I think everybody in California, with the story of his wife passing, but also just in general rooting for Mark, because Joe, kind of an unheralded trainer for the amount of success he's had throughout his career. He's consistently an 18 to 20% trainer every meet. His barn never goes cold.
I was going to say, I rode in California for most of my career for 18 years. And to your point, I don't think I've ever seen him in a so-called slump, which I feel like everyone goes through. And just an amazing horseman. He could win an $8,000 claim or get a grade 1 horse just like that. He's just so meticulous there every single morning, very, very early.
Yeah, he's there all the time, and he's a true started from nothing story. Started in the Pacific Northwest. You can see him decked out in the Seahawks gear there, unfortunately.
Oh, but that brings back bad.
Yeah. But he lived up there, and then he just took a shot one day to come down to I think it was Northern California first and then Southern California.
Yeah, I think I went to Golden Gate first and then Southern California. And that was back when it was really, really hard for a trainer or jockey to kind of get in there and then slowly work his way up.
He's like Mark Casse, another 35-year overnight success.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go to Joaquin.
Yeah, Mike, we saw one of the Japanese contenders on the track earlier this morning. That was Wonder Dean, who won the Grade 2 UAE Derby in his most recent start. He has 6 lifetime runs, 2 victories. We'll check in with the connections, or try to check in with the connections and see how Wonder Dean cooled out this morning from his workout here at Churchill Downs. But you can see a group starting to form over here right now. The reason we made our way over here to at least this part of the backside at Churchill Downs is because we are anxiously awaiting the arrival of Dan and Bourbon, the other Japanese runner in the Kentucky Derby. So I'm told that the van is here. They're just waiting to pull in here momentarily. As you can see, one van starting to come behind the trees right there. Might not be Dan and Bourbon. We'll see here in just a second. But Mike, when you look at his pedigree, it's all an American pedigree. By Maxfield, out of a tap at Mayer, Keeneland graduate, 450,000. Mike, he's undefeated. He's a perfect 3 for 3, winning the Fukaru Stakes in his most recent start for Dan and Bourbon, Mike. So we're just over here anxiously awaiting Dan and Bourbon and his arrival at Churchill Downs. We'll get a good look at him as he steps off the van for the first time here in just a moment.
Yeah, we're waiting on those Japanese horses. Dan and Bourbon, like he said, by Maxfield, he was a horse that you just assumed was going to be a great sire with the pedigree, and he was so beautiful. Just one of the most well put together animals on the track.
Yeah, just had some soundness issues for a while, but solid, good horse, good sire already in his early stallion career. And this horse is undefeated. I mean, 10 lengths, 5 lengths, and he won this race. This is the race that got him into the Kentucky Derby, and he's out of a tap-it mare. So there's plenty of pedigree there, top and bottom. $450,000 purchase at Keeneland. Again, I mean, you don't know. You have to respect this horse, just what we've seen with the Japanese runners. I mean, the sky's the limit. You don't know what you're dealing with here. He could jump up and win. He could run 20th.
And I think the one good thing for him, too, he only has 3 career starts. Look at the distances, 2 mile and 1/8 races and 1 mile and 3/16. So even though it's 3 starts, he has a really good base underneath.
And those tracks, like I said, ride 1 mile and 1/8 rides like 1 mile and 1/4, 1 mile and 3/8 over there.
So from the Japanese horses to the Oaks horses, Percy's Bar, one of the great stories on the Oaks Trail, named after a bar at the racetrack. Percy, one of the most beloved bartenders, passed away in 2024, and Percy's Bar named in his honor. And there's Percy's Bar at Keeneland Racecourse yesterday.
This was yesterday. I mean, yeah, this was a very popular win earlier this meet at Keeneland, and getting a look at this from the workout yesterday at Keeneland. Good workhorse, Joe.
Yeah, the work before went 47 flat. That was her first work back after that 2.5 length win in the Grade 1 Ashland. And this is perfect. I think the time we saw earlier, there it is, 49-3. That's exactly what you want. Her most important work was last week, 2 weeks out. So this is exactly what you want. That company was way ahead of her. She's going to catch her pretty easy there. And I do believe that is Juan Machado aboard her, who's ridden her in all 6 career starts.
Funny thing about Percy's Bar, she has done nothing but fire bullet workouts since February the 27th. Bullet after bullet after bullet, just the fastest work. But when you look at her running style in the afternoon, she doesn't make the lead. She relaxes when they go race pace. She has been on the lead in 1 start, and that was in the Alcibiades, and she got DQ'd out of that effort when she was bounced around, probably in front too long. So I think she's better sitting off a bit like she showed last time out, but aggressive workhorse in the morning.
And I think what's so good about her in that Ashland race, I know the pace wasn't quick at all. Final time wasn't that great, 1:45-3. But I think that actually benefited her coming off that 5-month layoff. She didn't have to blitz herself coming off of 5 months and have a so-called bounce theory in there. So I think that was absolutely perfect race off that layoff for the Kentucky Oaks.
Let's get back to Keeneland Racecourse with Scott Hazelton.
Well, here with Ben Colebrook, and Percy's Bar yesterday elected to put in her final workout here at Keeneland Racecourse, or I should say Ben Colebrook elected to do so. And I know that coming into yesterday, Ben, you were somewhat on the fence in the days leading up and what exactly she was going to do. You ultimately ended up working her. What went into that decision process with your Grade 1 winning filly?
I just wanted her to have an easy work, and then not, if she was going to work on her own, I thought she would work too fast. So I put just a horse in front of her to kind of switch her off and have her work a little slower, and it worked out great. Luan was able to execute it awesome, and she came out back, wanting more.
Is that typical of a horse to have company and it gets them to relax? Because typically it seems like it's the opposite.
Way around. But it kind of popped into my head after the Ashland when she was so relaxed and behind waiting for horses and they had that slow pace. So I said if I put a slower horse out in front of her, maybe she'll be able to slow her down, because when you show her open, when she has the open track in front of her, she just wants to go, and she usually bullet works. So we did want another bullet work. I didn't want to go into the Oaks with 7 straight bullet works, so it worked out great.
How has she been since her Grade 1 win here in the Central Bank Ashland?
Yeah, she's been great. She's done everything right. She's had 2 nice works now, and we'll just wrap her up and bubble wrap and get her over there to Churchill tomorrow morning.
With the way that she can be, like you said, in company versus by herself, quick, maybe a little bit more patient, how would you like to envision perfect scenario in a race like the Kentucky Oaks to go for her?
I think she's very versatile. She's shown she can win from the front, or not, she got taken down, but she was on the front in the Alcibiades. She's coming from behind in her other races, so we'll just have to play the draw. We'll talk to Luan, see where the other speed in the race is, but I think she'll probably be a little bit more forward in the Oaks, just, right now, but we'll see what happens with the post positions.
I talked to you before her Grade 1 win opening weekend here at Keeneland, but about the journey. But the journey is constantly evolving. Where we're at right now, standing at Keeneland, a week away from the Kentucky Oaks, how would you describe this current chapter of the journey?
This is we're getting to close to game day, so it's, everybody's just trying to make sure everything, you're just trying to make sure everything goes right between now and then, and just ultra focused, and hopefully she would get her over there and she can do her thing. But no, the journey's been up and down, but it's right now we're on the high, so it's good.
How are the partners going to handle this? The ownership partners heading over to Churchill and all the pomp and circumstance.
I've left that up to Gatewood and the guys. Will Chapman and Gatewood are in charge of customer relations.
You focus on the filly.
I focus on the filly, yeah. But they've got, I think everybody's going to be taken care of, but it's going to be a rowdy bunch, I'd have to think.
And we appreciate all the access, and we can't wait to see Percy's Bar in the Kentucky Oaks in a week.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Perfect.
He mentions Gatewood Bell. Gatewood Bell has a tremendous record, picking horses out, getting horses at a high level. He's had partnerships over the year, Hatfield races, etc., and he's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, and doesn't spend a lot of money with his partnership, and brings young people into the game. This horse cost $52,000 at Keeneland, September 2024. She's made over $1 million. That's a good ROI.
And look at her style. She can truly adapt to anything.
Yes.
She won first time out going 4.5, coming from 7 lengths back, 1 by 4, which is not easy to do. And then in the Grade 1 Alcibiades, even though she was DQ'd, she was in front. She went 23 flat, 46-4, and then she came from off the pace in a 50-1 half mile last time in a Grade 1 National.
I always talk about it. Those horses that win the 4.5 maiden races as 2-year-olds, you don't usually see them around late in their career, and let alone develop into leading 3-year-olds. Remarkable job. Has done a great job with her.
But it's more than just the filly. There's a lot in this name as we take a closer look at Percy's Bar.
She's just like this all the time. She's real, easygoing, mellow filly. I think she likes the attention. Last year, she hadn't really filled out, and this year I'm seeing that she's got more muscle tone and more condition, and I think she'll be even better, this year and hopefully next year. She's always been a good workhorse, but I will say that, these last few have kind of been pretty spectacular. When you look at her doing it and you look at your stopwatch, you're kind of like scratching your head every time, like, didn't look like she went that quick. She should just have an easy gallop. She's pretty much done everything she's going to do as far as training. Now it's just keeping her routine, keeping her happy. Percy's Bar, it's a great name. He was a great guy. And he was a bartender that bartended here for a long, long time. And then he bartended at Churchill. One of those racetrack characters that, everybody kind of knew who he was. And the saying was, meet you at Percy's Bar, so everybody knew where to go to meet up. Gives the bartenders in there something to cheer for when she runs too. I think last time the Alcibiades, they were a little gutted because they had pulled their tips and bet on her.
Percy's Bar, Tommy Joe, they nearly bumped, they do. Now Percy's Bar has the lead. There has been a disqualification. Percy's Bar placed second.
We've had all the emotions, even in the Breeders' Cup, you're kind of thinking, oh man, she's gonna get get the rail run and make a race of it, and then next moment she's bouncing off the rail, and she just had some tough circumstances, you know, that she's had to persevere through. But, you know, everything I've ever asked of her, she's obviously done. We got this race in our own backyard, so hoping that, you know, everything we've done is the right thing.
Well, she's seen a lot of adversity, which helps. I mean, she has gone through the battles on the racetrack and still performed well, even like we saw when she got bounced off the rail in the juvenile fillies.
Yeah, she's done a little bit of everything. I think she's, you know, from a trainer standpoint, she's checked all the boxes. You know, she's won at 4.5. She's shown the ability to win early. She's won around 2 turns. She won a grade 1, and she's won a first start as a 3-year-old. I think she's got another big jump forward in her.
No, for sure. And I just love how she's able to adapt pace-wise. If they go quick, she can settle right off. If they go slow, she could be right behind them. I think that's going to be absolutely ideal in the Oaks.
Let's take a look at that Oaks leaderboard with all the points and how it shuffles out with the 14 horses that'll be making their way into the starting gate. Percy's Bar with the second most points at 114. But the leader is Meaning, based in Southern California for Michael McCarthy. 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but that is the lone loss in her 4-race career.
Yeah, she came back as a 3-year-old, back-to-back wins. In the Las Virgenes in the Santa Anita Oaks, beating Brooklyn Blonde for Bobby Flay. Mike McCarthy running 1-2 in the Santa Anita Oaks, and this is her good-looking daughter of Gunrunner out of an Into Mischief mare. Perfect pedigree.
And one thing, getting back to that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies race where she was 4th, beating only 3 3/4. That was off a 6.5 furlong maiden victory at Los Al. So, I mean, she was stepping up big time and took sneaky money, too. It was only 12-1 and then won her 2 races coming back as a 3-year-old.
Well, I mean, that pedigree is about as good as it gets with Gunrunner on the top and then Into Mischief, the sire of Figure of Speech or Dam. She is bred in the purple, and that might have had something to do with the fact that she took some money in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but that was a nice performance to be 4th that day. She really is coming into her own. 4 races under her belt, and she's really developing into a top-notch racehorse with that Grade 2 victory last time out in the Santa Anita Oaks.
5/8's work earlier this morning, and this was a minute. And again, you know, when we put into perspective times, that's averaging each 1/8 of a mile in 12 seconds, so it's a pretty decent workout. And she averages 5-minute workouts pretty much on a routine basis.
Here's Always a Runner. She's on the outside here for trainer Chad Brown. You can see just coming around the turn.
She's his filly version of Emerging Market, pretty much. She's had 2 starts, 2 very impressive wins, winning the Gazelle at Aqueduct, and again, another daughter of Gunrunner, and Always a Runner breaking off here in 12 and change, and she finished up in 1 minute and 3/5. And typical of like a Chad work. You see a lot of his horses working company like this. His horses and Steve Asmussen's look very similar the way they work in the morning, right?
Yeah, you're not going to see them blitz around there in 58. And if they do, they're an absolute freak because every time they work, they're under a stranglehold, which, again, this is absolutely perfect. 1 minute and 3/5, 7 days out from the Oaks. That's exactly what you want to see.
Always a Runner. Long on talent, but again, just like Emerging Market, short on experience and foundation.
Yeah, but I you know, there's certain trainers I don't mind that with, and I think it's by design a lot of the time. You know, Chad Brown, a lot of his horses are lightly raced. He doesn't do much with them, you know, from that 2 to 3-year-old year. He gets them started late, and we'll see.
Always a Runner. She'll be a contender in the Oaks as she is 6th on the leaderboard with 100 points, winning the Gazelle on Wood Memorial Day at Aqueduct. You can see Prom Queen, Counting Stars, Bella Ballerina, the other horses that have won those 100-point races. Explorer for Bob Baffert at 95 points. Another one that's going to take some money, as you can imagine. And Dan and Bourbon has arrived as he is now getting off the van, one of the 3 overseas runners in this year's Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, he arrived in Chicago. So the route they take, they come from Japan. They quarantine in Chicago. So he landed in Chicago on the 21st, which was Tuesday. Quarantine, I think it's for 50 hours, and then made his way down here. That's about a 5-hour van ride, 6-hour van ride from Chicago.
Yeah, about 5.
Yeah, about 5 hours.
Here's the question I have. How do we know what type of horse we're getting from Japan? How do we know if it's a Forever Young or if it's a horse who's going to run up the track?
You don't.
Yeah, that's what's hard. You don't know what he's truly been running against back there.
I think it's hard to make that assessment. I mean, you just have to go on, I think, the historical fact that the Japanese are bringing live horses over here now. So they become an automatic player pretty much, especially with his resume.
I mean, he's 3 for 3. Wins a maiden as a 2-year-old, wins an allowance at Kyoto, and then wins the Fukuyu Stakes at Nakayama. And he is excellent. He's never really even been headed. I mean, he's won by 10, 5, and 3. He has all the talent in the world, but again, he's been running half a world away, so we don't exactly know until the first Saturday in May how he's going to match up against these American runners.
Yep.
I mean, visually watching that replay in that last stake, it looks like he's got some grit to him.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was set down, he finished very, very impressively. But getting back to your point, Mike, you don't really know what he's running against back there.
I mean, distance, the mile and a quarter doesn't worry me at all. That's sometimes we question a lot of these horses here. Will they see out the trip? I don't think the trip's going to be a problem for him. You just have to assess whether he's good enough, and that's hard to do.
As we take a look at the crowd here, daybreak at the Downs as fans coming in to see these morning works. If you can make it here, if you're in Louisville or in Kentucky and you're a drive away, highly recommend it. If not, we'll bring you all the action here on Breakfast at the Derby. We're going to take another break. We'll be back at Churchill Downs right after this.
The Derby is considered probably the most prestigious race in the entire world.
It's one race everybody in the country knows about. It's the first race somebody asks you if you won.
The ride in the Kentucky Derby is it's our dream. I mean, it's a dream come true.
The build-up is phenomenal. That's kind of what horse racing is all about.
200,000 people there in the grandstands, and they're all there just to watch that one race.
You can feel it in the air, man. I mean, it's different.
The Kentucky Derby is probably the most difficult race to get a mount in. There's only 20 positions available.
Of course, it's 3-year-olds. You only get one chance at it.
That first quarter mile, the race down to the first turn, fast and furious.
There's a lot of jostling going around.
Everything's going through your mind. Position, are we gonna get lucky today?
It's an amazing feeling. You know, it's reaching the pinnacle of our profession.
The noise almost knocks you off the horse.
Justify has won the Kentucky Derby!
This is the reason that we get up every morning to participate in this one race a year.
There's two things that get you out of bed in the morning: inspiration and desperation. Inspired to do this game, desperate for that Derby victory.
And I couldn't imagine we were looking back at Brian Hernandez looking up when he won with Mystic Dan. I can't imagine that feeling, because you don't know. But between him and Tyler Gaffalione on Sierra Leone, it was so close. They didn't know who won. And then when he saw that he did win, you could just see the jubilation in his face.
And also the a jockey like Brian Hernandez, who in his 40s when he wins his first Derby, guy's been doing it a long time. Another 20-year overnight success. A lot of talent, but he spent days riding at Mountaineer and smaller tracks before he made it to the big time.
I remember they had a feature on him. He was struggling at one time. He was actually thinking about going back to Louisiana, where he's from, and starting. And then that's one thing about horse race. You just keep waking up, keep grinding, and he won a Kentucky Derby.
Let's check in once again with Andy Biancone.
Well, the connections of the 2023 Kentucky Derby winning Mage are back in a big way with the Puma, Gustavo Delgado Jr. How excited are you to have this horse here and be back with these connections?
The best feeling. Coming here every week, I think it's the best week in racing, and it's coming next week. I just love being here.
I know the Puma went out for a nice gallop today, and he actually looks completely different than Mage. I remember Mage being very aggressive, but the Puma just looks very kind out on the track.
He's a cool dude. Even at the track, I think you can ride this horse anytime. He's pretty easy to handle, and more importantly, he seems to like here.
Don't tell me with a good time, because you can put me in, coach. But what is his week going to look like, and when can we expect to see his next work?
Well, we were planning on the last race before coming here was a really nice strong. He went a mile 97 change, and he did everything so perfect that we think that wow, that's it. We don't have to do much. So my guess is, the Puma human, my dad with the white hair, he's going to make that call whether it's going to be Monday or Tuesday, and I'm betting that he's going to let him stretch his legs. I don't know, maybe a half a mile for 52, something like that, but it won't be too much. So we will decide Monday or Tuesday, something like that. Play by ear kind of thing.
Play by ear. And I just have to ask you, because this may be the cutest forelock I've ever seen on a horse. Are you in charge of this little bit of a bowl cut that the Puma has?
Yeah, I gotta be honest. That was my mistake, and then we just have to even it out, and then it happened to end up like a winter boy version of horse, and now we are into fashion.
Yeah, and the Puma is certainly making trends, but he does rock this little bit of a bowl cut. But really excited for you and the team, and also excited for Michael and Jules Ivorone, who just bought into the Puma.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have them. Welcome to the team, Jules, Mike, great people, and they always bring good vibes, and more importantly, it's you need this kind of movements, in order to keep going. And well, you know how it is. Knock on wood, everything continues to go the right way. We are a week ahead out, so far so good, Andy. Let's keep it that way.
Let's keep it that way, Gustavo. We look forward to seeing the Puma put in his final preparation on Monday or Tuesday. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Appreciate it.
Kind of thought he looked like a young Justin Bieber with that forelock, right?
You should grow your hair out and do that, Mike.
I wish I could.
Be a good luck.
I got about as much of a shot at growing my hair out as Simon. At any rate, let's check in with Joaquin Jaime.
Here with trainer Chad Brown, who sent Emerging Market and Always a Runner in preparation for the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. Talking to you earlier in the morning, you said that Emerging Market would go 4 furlongs in company. Did everything go according to plan for you?
Yeah, he was moving great through the lane. He galloped out a lot of energy. He came back happy, so everything looked good.
Is that normal for him in the mornings? What is he generally like in the morning?
Does everything easy. He's a good moving horse, very efficient. Everything just comes easy to him, and I just, wanted to get him into the races, his last work. Get him in there happy and healthy, just something to stretch his legs, really.
Clearly he has the talent. Undefeated, he wins the Louisiana Derby. If you didn't feel that he was up for the task, we know you wouldn't be here. Other than the talent, what was the biggest indication for you for Emerging Market that he can handle the demands of the Derby?
Mentally, the horse is very intelligent. He's a cool customer. Nothing seems to bother him. And having been here a few times now with other horses and or at least having a good idea what it takes to not only run in the Derby and run well in the Derby, but exit the Derby the right way. There's no certainties, that's for sure. But going into the race, you want to have a horse you think you can handle this. This is a very unique event with 200,000 people here and a 20-horse field and a lot going on. There's might be weather considerations. There's a lot of stuff going on. So this horse seems to handle everything as good as a young 3-year-old colt can.
Your filly, Always a Runner, similar to Emerging Market, undefeated. She's 2 for 2. She won the Gazelle. What did she do this morning at Churchill?
Similar work. I was able to get Jose Ortiz, who's going to ride her for the first time in the Kentucky Oaks. He was out here this morning to just get a feel for her, and she just glided through the lane a half a mile and galloped out. The very similar fractions, 113, and I mean, she did that in first gear to me. So she's a really talented horse. She's had a tough road to get here, just a lot of just untimely, annoying setbacks, quite sick in the fall, and even after her maiden win at Tampa, she got sick again, not quite as bad. Missed a lot of training for the Gazelle. I only worked her 3 easy works and shipped her up there, and she ran off the van and won. If she was 70% fit for the Gazelle, I'm being generous. So I think this horse is coming into the race the right way.
And when she got back to the barn right now, how'd she bounce out of it? Early indications from that work?
Easy, like she galloped.
Yeah. We know you have one of the great mentors of all time in Bobby Frankel. Times have changed. Racing times have changed. We know that. Always a Runner, Emerging Market. They're only 2 for 2. What do you think Bobby would say to you, running an Oaks horse and a Derby horse with only 2 starts?
He won with Flute. How many starts did she have? I got to look it up. I think it was her 3rd start. Wow. So I got to look that up. But so he's done it. You know, he taught me a lot just to use your judgment, look at the horses individually, train the horses individually. That was really centerpiece of how Frankel trained horses. Yeah, everyone has a system, and generally we have, you know, schedules and systems for horses, but inside those systems, he always really looked at the horses individually, as I am, and these are just special situations. And as far as Emerging Market goes, I mean, you look at a race like the Derby, the one race that eluded Frankel, I mean, he won everything else. He had some bad luck in the Derby. At the top of the list would be Empire Maker, really, and the horses out of an Empire Maker mare, so I think that's a good omen for me.
Chad, always appreciate the time. Good luck next week in the Oaks and the Derby.
Thank you.
The thing that stands out, Always a Runner was 70% fit in the Gazelle.
Yeah. I mean, you don't usually hear sound bites like that from training.
No.
Dead honest. I had 3 works, put her on a van from Florida to New York, and boom, she won. And I think another thing to take away, which kind of what I mentioned earlier, did you hear what he's quietly confident with Emerging Market, I think. Just the 2 starts, and you could hear it in his voice, and it's what I touched on. I think the key piece for me as a former trainer is he said, now I've been here a few times, and I know what type of horse it takes. A guy that's been here several times wouldn't just be bringing a horse with 2 starts just for the sake of it. He knows that this horse can handle it. And I've always said the difference between a good horse and a great horse, if they're all got the same physical ability, it's here that makes the difference, the mind. And you need a huge mind for a day like this.
It's not like he's 0 for the Derby. He almost won it with Sierra Leone.
Exactly.
I mean, they were an inch away.
Zandon was placed as well. I think.
So he knows what it takes. By the way, the show continues on YouTube. At 8:30, you can watch the streaming on YouTube. Check it out on the FanDuel Racing channel. Right now, though, it's time for some barnstorming with Andy B. Ancone.
When horses go to the races, you often see their legs wrapped up in vet wrap, and this is a super common practice. It just gives them a little extra support as well as protection in case their legs get cut up. Sometimes on certain tracks, some horses with longer pastern could have a tendency to burn the bottom of their fetlocks as well, so vet wrap is just something, an additional measure taken to make sure that doesn't happen, but it's important to apply pressure on the front of their cannon bone, but not on the back of their tendon. So I'll always just pull a little bit, attach, sticks together, and I'll leave a little room to come down. I like to go 3 times around the ankle. This is her hind ankle, but like I said, that vet wrap is just going to protect her. Super important that you have a V in the front, which is what I have here. But I'll just go 3 times around, just to make sure that she's got a nice layer of protection. Obviously horses weigh a lot. There's a lot of pressure when they're running, so I will just work my way up, adding a little bit of pressure. on the cannon bone, not on the back of their leg. And I will just go right up to the top. The great thing about vat wrap is you don't have to really worry about it coming undone. Like, you couldn't race with polos or elastics because it would just be too much of a risk that they could possibly come undone, but vet wrap adheres to itself. I will secure it with a little bit of elastic tape, electrical tape. And everybody's different. Most people will do 3 rounds, but again, you don't want to put pressure on the back of their tendon, so I will always pull out like this, wrap the inside gently, and pressure on the front of their cannon bones is okay. You can see here, she's ready to go to the races.
Okay, Simon, grade her wrapping.
Oh, I'd give that a 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
10 out
sure,
of 10,
right?
yeah. I could still get down there.
10 what? I thought we were doing 5 roses. What's
All right,
10?
5.
5? I don't
5 roses.
10.
Yeah. 10
Grade
out of
that.
10.
27. Out of what? At any rate. I think we're done.
Yep.
We're all done? Okay. Watch on YouTube. If you missed the whole show and you're just joining us now, you can catch the whole thing on the internets. For everyone who made the show possible, for Andy and Joaquin on the backstretch, Scott Hazelton at Keeneland Racecourse, Joe Talamo, Simon Bray, and I. We're here at Churchill Downs, and we're going to be here all week. That was just day 1. We got more breakfast coming up tomorrow. We'll see you then.